there's that version, there's that way of doing it too.
All right, so we are at the Hungarian pastry shop now, and we're looking at you. it's a regular camera, and this is Giora Carmi, and you don't see me, but I'm Leanne. And there's actually a wall here behind us, or to the right of us, of all the books, or probably not all the books, but many of the books that have been written by authors right here at the coffee shop, and you can kind of see that a lot of people are working here. And we are eating, I don't know if they're Hungarian or Greek pastries, but we're eating pastries and having some coffee. And my father actually wrote a book called, and go ahead, eat, it's okay.
Opening intuitive flow through artwork.
And
it's going to be here on the wall too.
Yeah, and so it's going to be up there on the wall. And yeah, I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure it out as we go. And what I find really interesting is that, and I'll ask you in a second how you came to study that and how you came to do that. But what I find interesting is that over the last year or so, I've been introduced to the idea of beliefs and how they create our life and how we're in control of our beliefs. And once I learned that, it came to my realization that so many other people know that too. And the books that I'm reading now have everything to do with it, like psycho-cybernetics that I've talked about, and many other books that I haven't talked about on the blog. And the same is true for my father. He's got a different way of reaching these beliefs through art. So how did you come to do that?
Okay, I studied art therapy. And art therapy is based on psychoanalysis. And psychoanalysis is a very complicated system, I can say system of thought that gives a way to look at the subconscious. The importance of the subconscious is that maybe I'll say something, but basically there are systems of thought in the subconscious that operate and we are not aware of them. But they operate and they make us do things that we don't even know why we do them. Right? And that's actually the issue of psychology. Because anybody if we could only do what our conscious mind thinks, it seems to be easier to control it. And so if there is something that we don't want to do, we just don't do it. Nevertheless, we end up getting angry where we don't want to, getting depressed where we don't intend to, getting mixed up with all kinds of unpleasant things, and we don't know why it happens to us. It looks like a punishment or something. Yeah. But it's a program that we ourselves install in our mind at some time, early time, usually in childhood. At the time it was a solution. As children we figured out it will save us from trouble, and probably it did. And that's why we kept it. And as we, it's kind of not a happy solution, but it worked. And once we decided to act in a certain way, and we repeated it several times, that's what the subconscious does. It takes things that he realizes are important for us, learns it and does it for us. It changes it into a different way of thinking, and it becomes a program that works under the surface. It is in a more subtle energy. Subconscious works in a more subtle energy, and the energy of thinking that I use now to talk is much more coarse. So while being in the coarse state, I cannot detect the subtlety of the subconscious, and that's why I don't know what's going on there. So so you asked how I came to use intuition. I became quite intuitive. I realized I was quite intuitive maybe all my life. But it became clear to me when I was involved with meditation, intense meditation for about 5 years. People would come to me to ask different questions, and I would just kind of tune into like the deeper self in some way. That's the way it feels like feels like an endless opening. And I knew what to say. And people felt it, and they would come to me to ask. So when I studied art therapy and I saw that they base everything on psychoanalysis, I immediately felt that psychoanalysis doesn't go deep enough. With all due respect, it's a thinking system, and once you think, you actually you lose the patient, because the patient comes from his subconscious more than conscious part. So I looked for, and it's not really looked, I already knew that I had something. And it started to appear in different ways. One of them was that when I read papers or articles that I had to read, in the margins I wrote everything that I disagreed with and why. So I started to kind of think about it more. It was intuitive at first, I just knew I was right. But I had to find words for that, and this is what it helped me to do. And then there were many times when I started to work with people, still in my internships. And the way I worked was not traditional at all. I just knew what to do in the same way. And then I had to present it and think about it and give words to it. And so slowly it started to appear, like out of many details, like a method appeared. Started to appear out of nowhere, but it was there actually. It just worked.
And I'm just going to pause you for a second because there's something very interesting going on. There's actually a camera crew here and some people recording, and I have no idea what they're doing, but it caught my attention, and it gave my dad a chance to eat some of this poppy seed pastry. And maybe take a sip of coffee.
So, when I did the internships, I chose to go to places where there was no local supervision. So I could really develop what I wanted to do. And then I would bring it to the head of the course of the art therapy, and she supervised me in her office. And through these conversations, I was very, very lucky that she was open mind. And all the teachers, most of them, saw that there was a lot of, made a lot of sense what they did. It's basically very human. And they saw good results, and so they just supported me. Let me just go the way I went. Also, I was 58 when I went to school, and they were younger than that, and maybe they had some kind of respect to old people. I don't know.
Or some beliefs in the way
But they were very, very, very kind and nice. That's why I chose actually NYU, because I felt that the people there were open-minded. So out of all this came a method, and it turned out, kind of saying it in a short way, it turned out that it was based on intuition. So what's the whole story about intuition? Intuition is knowing without thinking, without the need to think about it. So it's knowing that comes from a more subtle energy work. And if you go, you can say maybe the common subconscious of everybody that Jung talked about. We are energetically, we're all connected, and the more subtle you can get in your tuning to energy, the more wide the background from which your intuition comes. But the main thing about it is that it doesn't come as thoughts. It's much more like some communication without words. So it needs to be translated to words. So these are the two parts of the method that I developed. I show people it's very easy to do through art.
And can they still download the method on your website?
Yeah, it's a little hidden there, but it's there.
So where do they go on your website to download the directions?
You go to email art therapy. You find email art therapy. And when you read the text, there are links to I don't remember how I called it. Kind of a different way of making art or something like this.
And this is in intuition through art.
No, that's in psychotherapy through art.
Psychotherapy through art.
.com.
Okay.
Yeah. But basically, I teach people how to make art intuitively.
And do you have to be a good artist to participate?
You don't have to be an artist at all.
I mean, what if you can't even draw a stick figure?
What?
What if you can't even draw a stick figure?
Well, I had things like this. I worked with prisoners. And some of them never touched any crayon or any paint from the time they were in kindergarten at all.
Wow.
But they were inventive. So, for example, a person couldn't draw even a stick figure. So he said, for me, a person will be a square. And if it's a woman, it will be a circle. And if it's a car, it will be a star. And he used those. But you don't even have to use those, because it's not so much a narrative drawing. It's more based on sense of beauty. So you just pick the color that looks beautiful to you at the moment. And every time it will be different. And you make something that you like doing, that you feel the tendency to do. And as you do it, you start tuning in and say, okay, to make the picture beautiful, what will I do next? Beautiful for me. It's not some kind of a theoretical beauty that is common to anybody. It's very, very individual. So if you follow just your sense of beauty, it comes from a wordless place, and so you become intuitive on the spot. And when we become intuitive, because it's a higher energy, we feel good on the spot. So people who are depressed, for example, in the first session, during the session, they are not depressed. You cannot be depressed when you have higher energy. It's just impossible.
Wow.
Yeah. Later, the old programs can kick in again. They do. But you do it again and again, and they just get used to be happy without even noticing that it happens. Right. But what's unique about this method is because intuition itself is flowing without any blockages. So as it goes through our energy system in order to come out as a picture, it encounters everything that stands in the way of flow. So why does it not flow? Because we have some programs about it. And those programs are like hot buttons. So every time a hot button is touched, the thinking mind kicks in because it feels there's danger there, and you start to think in the drawing. And when you look at the drawing later, you see that the flow stops. So you can find all the spots where it doesn't flow.
Can you do this yourself, or do people who practice this have to give you the drawings to look at? So if somebody downloads the instructions how to do this method, can they do the whole thing themselves and read it themselves, or do they have to send you the drawing to read for them?
Well, on the websites now, only how to do the drawing exists. It's free for everybody, and it's already beneficial. Because you feel good in a fundamental way, not just feel good because you don't know.
Yeah.
because you ate poppy seed cake. But you feel good because you went into a higher vibration. And it's a deep experience, short but deep. It's very easy to get into that.
It's maybe like a quick meditation.
Yeah, it is like a quick meditation, successful meditation, actually, because nobody failed ever in that. All the people who came to me never failed, and they just become better and better and better. I used this method, and I was invited to do a workshop in a meditation center where people go on retreats for 7 days meditation, and they meditate every day, morning and night, and they go to courses and all that. In an hour and a half, they became so peaceful. They told me they have never been so peaceful in meditation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So really, I mean, there's different applications for this, but
Yeah.
the primary thing that you can do is if you
And I still-
studied meditation or never studied meditation, you can get into a nicer, higher vibration that just feels good
Yes.
to you, that eliminates depression and other feelings.
Exactly, that's a value one. So the second is, like, as I told you before, as the intuition flows through the system and it touches the hot buttons, like you make a line and the line reminds you subconsciously of something that you don't like or suffer or you have to protect. Suddenly you start to think and the drawing stops being fluid. And so you see suddenly the drawing something that doesn't work. You can go into those spots and imagine yourself diving into them and make another drawing, and it will tell you what's the problem there. So in this way you see the subconscious like that.
Wow.
In a second.
So it's almost like you've got a picture inside a picture inside a picture
Yeah,
inside
yeah,
a
yeah,
picture,
yeah.
and you're clearing out blocks and realizing what's going on.
Yeah. And another thing about it, it's the problems themselves, the stories. Every problem is a story, right? It's like you read a story in a book. This happened, I went there, and she said something, and I said something, and this is what happened. But the stories are not so important. What's important is the structure of the thought that will represent maybe a confrontation with fear on one side and anger on the other. For example, you can see in the structure of the drawing because it's visual. So you deal with the master structure of a problem. This master structure, as you know, in life, if you have something, it keeps happening again and again, and every time the story is slightly different. So it doesn't make sense to deal with one story, and you have to deal with the structure itself. So in this way, you deal with the structure, and there is a way to dissolve it. And so all the stories that come out won't come anymore. So it's a big change. That happens easily. So that's the method, and it includes knowing how to do intuitive drawing and knowing how to read it. At first, only I read it, and I thought, I didn't think about giving the method.
Yeah.
But then I started to think, if I'm the only one who knows it, then when I die, it goes away. Right? So I started to think about ways to teach other people to do it. And it turned out to be easy too. So there is a way, and this will be in the book and will be free for everyone. Not free, but almost free for everyone. When the book will come out, the Kindle version is going to be free for 5 or 7 days.
Oh, great.
So if someone is interested, jump on it. In the book, you have all the information how to do it for yourself. It still helps to work with me, or maybe with others who will become good at it, because they would have more subtlety of perception
Well, I mean, sometimes you can't see what's in your subconscious, but other people can see it clearly because they have a different frame of reference.
yeah, they don't have the effect of wanting to hide it.
Yeah.
Right? So they can see clearly. They are not fooled by your system. But also there is if you do it many times, if you do it for yourself, even if you don't succeed so much, eventually you will succeed. And it doesn't take much. Like I have an example. One woman who just became very interested, and she kept calling me and asking me about the method. And so I decided to send her the chapters from the book, 2 chapters. One describes how to draw intuitively and one how to read the intuition. And she studied them and did it on her own. And she started to have changes in her life very fast. Then she decided that she wanted to work with me because she wanted to see how it will be working with me. And I can tell you, it's not that I'm special or something. Somehow I opened more due to whatever I went through in my life, and anybody can do it too. But and when you work, you become more and more sensitive to energy. But I never had one session in my life in which something good didn't happen. Something really substantially good. And people are always surprised. But there's one person who told me after the first session, he said, "Wow, I didn't know I had a subconscious." That's extreme. But now he knows, and he knows very, very well because he found fantastic things there. He found what hinders him and what actually drives him. It's also very, very important to see where you flow. So it helps to do some sessions because you get the neck of it much quicker. And it's not a difficult thing, and it can be done through Skype or anywhere in the world.
Great. Well, here, I'll let my dad turn the camera on me because my hand is getting very, very tired at this point.
Oh, maybe we stay on the cakes.
Okay, yeah, they might look better than I do. So that was giora Carmi, my father. And you can go to his website at intuitionthroughart.com, or the older website is psychotherapythroughart.com. And you should download the first 2 chapters of his book and download the method. And when does the and I'm peeking under the camera to see it. When does the book come out?
Well, the designer promised that it will be ready in 3 weeks.
Okay, 3 weeks. So give it a month, and I will definitely put this on my blog and let you know when it's free, so you can all download it. And so, Giora, thank you very much
You're
for this
welcome.
interview. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye, everyone.
Shall I press the stuff?
Yes, the red button.